All right, everybody, welcome to our latest virtual bourbon event. We have Jade Peterson from Kentucky Artisan Distillery on, and Jade is going to be sharing with us some experiments that he's got going on. These are things not available to the public just yet, and kind of led to an incident today. Even we're going to talk about that. That's some fun, a little bit to that. And Ethan is joining him as well, so he'll be chiming in as well. Ethan, how are you?
I'm very well. Worked a good day today. And always having fun down in Kentucky Artisan.
So specifically, your job is what, like an assistant distiller? What exactly do you do there?
Well, I'm there to back up Jade and run the day-to-day operations. First thing in the morning, milling, getting all the stills loaded up. Everything that Jade is too busy to do, dealing with everybody else, we take care of. So
Right.
Whatever he needs from me, I got him.
He's been double dipping on the bottling line the last couple of weeks also.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the deal when you're at a distiller. There's no, you have a set job, but when all hands on deck when you need to get something done, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
I mean, that's just how it goes. So Jade Peterson, the master distiller for Kentucky Artisan. Jade, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to see you guys. It's nice to see a bunch of faces since tours have been down. So getting to see people is always exciting right now.
Yeah. Justine and I were talking today, Justine Mays there, and we were saying, these things, when you get a big group together like this, it kind of feels oddly normal. Kind of feels like our old lives a little bit because you get to do something as a group, have some fun, interact with people. So it's cool to be able to do these things. Jade, you and I have known each other for a little while, so I know your personal story, but I still got to ask the questions because I can't assume that the whole audience here does. So tell us a little bit about your background before we get started. We got some great whiskey we're going to be trying, but I think people need to know a little bit about you. You are what, a sixth, seventh generation distiller?
Yeah. My great grandmother's cat was a distiller.
He's the most unusual one because it's not a family business, right? It's just something that you got into because of passion.
I came from a logistics and manufacturing background. I'm a Northern Illinois corn boy, so kind of a Kentucky transplant. Been down here for about 8 years now. Started my own business when I moved down here, and when things were slow with my business, I looked for a part-time job and actually worked part-time on the bottling line at Kentucky Artisan. Mm-hmm. And from there, every time someone left, got fired, showed up late, I just raised my hand and I was like, teach me how to do it. Don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And kind of moved up the ranks. Luckily, I'm a quick learner, was able to partner up with some good people at the company. And as they expanded, I was able to learn it from the ground up, step by step, and now trying to pass some of that knowledge on to Ethan and some of the other guys there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And how long have you've had the master distiller title now? For how long?
Probably just under 2 years, about a year and 8 months.
Yeah, very cool. And I don't know that people necessarily know a lot about Kentucky Artisan Distillery by name. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the company. And I know that they know that there's a relationship with Jefferson's because if you come visit you, that's where Jefferson's is headquartered, or at least that's where their customer interaction point is. So tell us a little bit about the relationship there, what Kentucky Artisan, and how all this works.
Yeah, so we originally opened up kind of as a bourbon fantasy camp. People were able to come out, make a barrel or two, try out some small recipes, and that was in 2012. And over those first 2 or 3 years, we kind of got into a good flow, made some good connections, and kind of developed, our ability to make whiskey. And as we did that, some of the owners' brands, as well as some outside contracts, noticed us. And we were able to partner with some bigger brands. So some of the ownership groups include the people that own Whiskey Row, Bourbon Whiskey, High Spire Whiskey, which is a rye whiskey, the Jefferson's Group, Billy Goat Strut, which I see on the background of Kevin's switch too. So we like that one.
Good move.
We shamed him into it. I think we did.
And we still do a lot of contract distilling and contract bottling for a lot of firms. I'd say on any given year, we probably bottle for 20 plus firms that are not ownership in ours. And distilling, I'd say 2017 we probably distilled for close to 30 different groups, and this last year we broke that down to about 7 groups, just because as people wanted our product, they bought up the capacity. And ownership such as Jefferson's, they took up about 2,000 barrels of that production last year.
Yeah. So we'll focus. I know because you can't necessarily talk about all these relationships. Let's talk about a couple that people do know, and that are out there. So I'm not again asking you to share anything that's company secret. We would not do that. So as always, tell us if we ever do say something wrong. But
Yeah.
Jefferson's is a name that people know. They make great products. So tell us about that relationship, and then what your working relationship is with Trey Zoller. Again, the master blender behind that, the face of that brand.
Yeah. So the Jefferson's company, they own roughly 25% of Kentucky Artisan. So they are a big player for us. We do about 90% of our production on the distilling side goes to them. And I'd say about half of the bottling, as well as the tour center and tasting facility is all located at Kentucky Artisan. So we do a lot of face-to-face interactions with them. We do a lot of their single barrel selections and work through those programs with them. Liz Ratliff that runs the tour center heads up that program now. And with Trey, I mean, great mentor to have coming out of the gate from day one, and really kind of opened my eyes to the ability to not, I mean, he has got family ties to the industry, but he really is not the atypical distiller or blender from the area. So he's kind of out on his own, really pushing those boundaries. And it's given me a lot of freedom to work with him while he's tasting through and selecting his products, but also kind of open that door and let me try some of the things on my own. Now, my scale is significantly smaller than what they're working with. And Kentucky Artisan does not have any ocean liners or boats with barrels on them. So I get to play with warehouse space and inflatable rafts.
But he is, one of the most creative people in bourbon, because what he did, his company was literally start just 100% sourcing, buying whiskey, but he didn't just buy it and put it in a bottle. He would always do something unique to it, something to add value to it, something to change it. So he doesn't have, if he was using, and again, he bought from a lot of different places, but if he was using an MGP whiskey, it doesn't taste like the other people that are releasing MGP whiskey because he's done something different to it. He might have put it in an international type of storage container, a hot box in the back, or put it on an ocean vessel or something crazy. So what's it like working with a guy like that is so creative and pushes the boundaries?
I mean, at first it was kind of scary because I didn't really know what I was doing myself. And you see the traditional brands, and being on distillery tours before I got into the industry, you hear that story, and then you kind of come in and you've got a guy like you said that's looking to push those boundaries, and you're thinking, wow, I'm working for this company. I really hope this works. And they have. They've been great. The Oceans is a great line that we work with. We've done a lot of experiments with independent stave companies, such as the Twin Oak project that we did, and they've been hits. And he keeps putting them out one after another.
Mm-hmm. So the other one I want to talk to you about in terms of a contract customer, just to give a totally different scenario. Jefferson's is a relatively big player because they are a global product. You can buy it even outside the U.S. So their distribution is excellent. So it's a well-known brand name, while relatively small when you compare it to some of the biggest players. But they're definitely out there and have brand recognition. And I can say in my case, it's a grocery store bourbon. It's one you can find there. Their distribution is so solid you can find it at the grocery store. But a totally different other end of the spectrum is Mike Veach, a name that is well known in the industry. He's a writer, historian, author, and Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Famer. And he had always talked about he had distilling in his background, heritage. Some relatives down the line had been into distilling, and he had talked about a desire to do that. And he recently, it's been, when I say recent now, maybe a couple of years, a year and a half, something like that, maybe 2 years, he finally started to act on that. And he came to you guys. And tell us a little bit about working on that project and where it stands right now.
Yeah, so definitely Veach has been a huge player as well in my coming up in the industry and being able to reach out to him with, some historical questions and kind of figuring out, what's been done and why do people do certain things. And he's usually able to at least point me in the right direction, and works with the BARD, the Bourbon and Rye Society, and was able to come out, and he partnered with Jack Rose Dining Saloon, the guys out in Washington, D.C.,
Yep.
To put down some special barrels that we did for them. And we did 4 barrels that were a chocolate malted bourbon.
Okay.
And they were made with some heirloom corn varietals. They were actually hickory king corn, which are white corn. The kernels are about the size of your thumbnail. So completely different product than the yellow corn. And we're actually going to taste through something that's similar, not exactly the product we made for him, but has a lot of similarities to it.
Okay. And where do we stand on that? When do we think that'll be available? And again, it's going to go through Jack Rose. It's a work with them. But if we're interested in that, how far off are we from getting a taste of that, do you think? And I know that could be a moving target, but when do you think?
No, they really set the goal for that to be a bottled and bond product.
Okay.
So we're looking right at the 4-year marker. So we still got about another year and a half to go.
Gotcha. Okay. Also want to talk to you about Kentucky Artisan, because you guys do put out your own products as well. So you're not just sourcing products for other people that want to sell whiskey. So tell us a little bit about some of the work you do for yourself.
Yeah, so we've also got the Whiskey Row brand as well as the Billy Goat Strut. So we don't have a huge footprint. All the products that we're currently putting out through the majority owner, Steve Thompson, are only sold in Kentucky currently. The goal for pretty much all distillers is to be able to spread nationwide, and we've kind of held that, trying to build up a little more following with both of those brands. There's also talks about Whiskey Row possibly heading out to California and a few other states possibly within the next 12 months, which would be a huge win for us.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those are a combination of products that we make in-house as well as that we've purchased and blend with. And the longer we've been up and operational, the larger percentage of the product we've been able to use from in-house, where they both launched as blended sourced products. Each release that we do, we get closer to being 100% from the distillery.
Okay. So tell us, we're here today to talk about experiments. So tell us a little bit about experimenting in the distilling industry.
Yeah.
How does this come about? Is it just stuff you do, or is it customer directed? How does this work?
Yeah, so it's actually a really good combination. Sometimes we get clients that come in with open minds and honestly open checkbooks, and they want to find something that's different. And sometimes they come in and say, hey, we want you guys to try and make us, something similar to Wild Turkey or, another distillery's brand, and we want to, run something similar to that. Other times they come in and say, hey, what have you made that, you like? And I may have, 10 different runs that we've done, small batches, maybe 5 to 10 barrels on. And if, that's not enough to supply their needs, then we can look at going into production for them with something similar. And then sometimes, we get the people that come in that honestly, they've got the world's best bourbon recipe and they're going to share it with us, and we can try and make that for them and see how it pans out. I think a lot of people, when they come into the industry, don't realize that you could be waiting for that, 3 to 12 year marker. So
Oh, you guys can hear me, right? Yeah, there. Looks like they're froze up. We'll give them a second here to get back online here. These things happen. It is a real live event. So yeah,
Rick's fault.
So yeah, talking about Jack Rose. Yeah, Jack Rose certainly struggled, but they famously did start selling off their. I have no idea how much. I mean, they have a huge inventory of distilled spirits. So they selling some of that. While probably not fun, they certainly can survive that. Probably bigger than anybody. So, and I do understand, like Kevin said, that they are back up open now, and hopefully, hopefully they'll make it through, because we're still not through this. Obviously, I just worry that at the end of this, we'll still have restaurants, but they're all going to be Olive Gardens and Red Lobsters. It's tough. So support your local when you can. That's still an important thing, to get out there. And if you're going to spend money, get out there and spend it with the little guy who has to be struggling. This has been tough times, and being closed or being open with 25% capacity, that doesn't really do anything in the restaurant industry. So
go visit our friend Jason Bronner.
Yeah, our friend Jason Bronner. Yeah, he's had a tough time. For sure. I think he's continuing to struggle. So they've certainly had issues, and yeah, he got some loans, and it's an incredibly sad story, because he was scheduled to be paid off everything after being in business. I forget how many years, 15 years or something like that. Yeah, it was 15th anniversary. So 15 years, finally going to be paid off this spring. And this happens, and he's right back to basically like day one. Taking out loans and things like that. Looks like our guys are coming back in. So As soon as the audio connects, we'll be good to go.
Get back on here.
There we go. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
All right.
no problem. These things happened. It's happened to me before leading the meeting. So
Yeah, we switched from the laptop to the cell phone.
okay. So yep, yeah, no problem. So we were talking a little bit about your own products and we were talking about the experiments that you do and how you come up with these ideas and that type of thing.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a combination of clients bringing in those ideas and asking us to kind of fill in the gaps, and then scalability and gratification. If you're looking for instant gratification, the bourbon world's not your best place to start, since you've got to wait. And really that scalability of coming in and wanting to make one barrel to try it. If it does turn out great and you've waited 4 years, now you're kind of in the dust. You've been waiting on that barrel for 4 years, and you could have put down 50 or 100 so you could go ahead and start your brand. So it's a lot of expectations to try and get out to everybody when you're trying to start those.
Walk us just a little bit through the process of experiments, though. Jade, are you always thinking of this stuff and then kind of writing it down and being like, at some point I want to do this, or do you see things other people are doing and thinking, I'd like to do that, or maybe take a twist on that? How do you come up with the ideas for the experiments, things like we're going to be tasting tonight?
Yeah, I think some honestly are slight variations of your general production. We may have a day where we honestly have a mistake, and mistakes are great learning tools. So we could be, short on 1 grain and have something left over from a side project. And honestly, one of the projects we did with the smoked project, we were doing a small percentage for someone else and decided to go with 100% on ours. So we just used everything that we had left. And then absolutely, I've got a notebook, and when I'm out, with friends or family or visiting other distilleries and talking with distillers, and depending on what stage of how many sips you've had of their product, you kind of get those, what next moment, and come up with a great idea while you're sitting around the table. And then, 4 or 5 months later, you finally get to trying it out. But it's really just a never ending process where you've got something in your mind and then you get the opportunity to really act on it. Since I don't have any ownership in the distillery, sometimes I got to pick and choose, when I get to use those moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And last time that we talked, speaking of no ownership though, but you are doing a little experimenting on your own, laying down some barrels for yourself, and you don't even necessarily know what you're going to do with that at this point, but you have laid a couple barrels down, like a dozen or something like that, just things you want to try.
Put down 12 barrels this year. Hopefully I would like to put another 8 down before the end of the year, and probably do another 10 next year at minimum. And really just depends on, available funds. And if I don't go on vacation, I probably have a little bit more money to put towards my big whiskey collection.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One last question on the experiments. If you do an experiment, Jade, and you try something out and you're tasting it along and it is pretty good, what do you do with that at that point? Would you go to, Steve Thompson, the owner of Kentucky Artisan, and say, hey, I think I laid down something down pretty good here. Do we want to release this, or do you go to wait until you get a customer that's coming in, a potential customer that's like, I don't know what I want to do, and then you let them try that? Or what do you do with your experiments?
Yeah, so generally, they'll start with myself, probably the warehouse manager, Redmond. If we're down there trying things out, we're both like, hey man, that's coming along pretty well. Usually we'll pull a sample and let the distillers taste through it, just because we kind of have access to some good minds that are around it all the time. So we've got 5 guys that work in the distillery, and then the people in the tour center are great too. So we'll pull some tour guides, try and get males, females perspective, a 20-year-old and a 60, 70, 80-year-old. We like to get, a couple people in. And if I can get some general results that are good across the board, then I'll start bringing it up to Steve. And other times, Steve he just wants to go with an idea, and there's not a whole lot of R&D in it. We'll just pull the trigger and put something down. But I generally like to have probably 20 plus people try something before I start walking it up the ladder.
Mm-hmm. And again, the weird thing about this business is there's so many years. So how long do you need to have it sit till you think you're on the right path where you would begin to invest in laying down some more barrels? I assume you don't want to wait till it's fully mature, because it could be 2 to 4 years, and then you don't want to start all over. Otherwise, you could sell what you've got there, but then you've got that 2 to 4 year wait till you can sell another barrel of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got kind of lucky because, like I was saying, when we first opened, it was kind of like a distillery boot camp where we had a lot of different recipes come through, and that was now going on 7 years. So I've had the ability to kind of pull from product, along that journey to taste something at 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 years old, and you kind of find a couple precursors to different flavors that are coming or going, and then a lot of it falls back into that patience line. And I wish I could say that every 3-year rye would taste a certain way, but I found that ours, we've got one recipe that I absolutely love at about 2 years, 8 months, 3 years, right in that range. And I've got another one that didn't even start to mature until we almost got to 5. And we're tasting those, at first you start off and you're impatient. So we're tasting them every month, and then you kind of like, we better leave this alone or there's going to be none left. And we're at 6 months, and then finally you're like 18, and you're finally getting color and good, body to it. And then we got busy, we got busy distilling and doing everything else and learning the new systems. And all of a sudden we turned back around, and it's 4.5 years on some of these barrels, and we popped them back open, and we were just in love with them. So really, you've got different groups that love different flavor profiles, and we can pull things at different levels to try and meet those needs. So that kind of is the benefit of when you got, millions of people that love whiskeys and bourbons. If you can find a couple thousand enjoy your product, you can help sustain the brand.
Okay. One quick story though, before we try our first whiskey, and because we are trying things that aren't available for sale, experiments, even people at the distillery get excited about this stuff. So talk to us and tell the story that you told me this afternoon when we were on the phone about the experiments that you had for this tonight's meeting that you had ready to go at Kentucky Artisan.
Yeah, absolutely. So I pulled the samples for Steve about a month ago, and had my set sitting still in our distillery lab office, and didn't think anything of it. Most of them have the generic handwritten labels on them, but apparently the rest of the distillers or someone in the tour center decided that they wanted to see what the sneak peek was for and what the sample bottles were. So when I went to pull mine to bring them back home, all of them were just about empty, left with empty sampling glasses next to them. So we had to go out and pull new samples today to do the tasting tonight.
It's a good sign though. They're excited about it too. So it's not just us that are excited about this, they're excited about it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he asked me if I would like to come on, and he said, you can try these. And I'm like, yep, 100%. I'll be there. What time?
Yeah, very cool. Well, let's get on. Let's try our first one here. So experiment number 1. Let's go ahead and take a pour of that.
Possible, Steve, I'd like to actually start with number 2, if that's
Number
all
2.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. When I tasted through them earlier today, I kind of like the order of changing it up a little bit. So
okay.
We'll start with number 2.
So we will be starting with number 2, folks.
Should we pour the whole thing now or save some for later? How's this going to go?
I would save some. This is really what I'm using as a base whiskey for a blend. So this is actually a 100% single malt smoked rye.
Okay.
And it's got a very, very, very strong flavor. But we knew kind of going into this that this was going to be a base that would be blended off probably almost at about 5%. So it would be one of these to about 20 other barrels when we go into production for this.
Wow. Okay. 1 to 20 and still able to stand up. That's pretty bold.
It does. And this is sitting right about 4 years old for the samples that we have pulled.
Okay.
This went into new number 3 charred oak barrels. The sample that you guys have is not filtered at all and barrel proof still. We went in at super low entry proof. We went in just under 100. It's sitting at about 96 for those samples, I believe.
Okay. Let's start with the nose. And anybody want to share what they're getting on the nose? I see Jonathan said that he's getting some smoke and some chocolate. And Melanie's shaking her head yes to that one. And Neil. So you guys getting that as well?
Very much so. Very smoky. I remarked to Jade when we were sitting here getting ready to set up, just running through them real quick. It reminds me of my grandfather's cigar and pipe smoking chair.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Definitely get that.
Yeah. So this one to me, I get like I said, this one's made to be a base spirit, so it's going to be really, really powerful. And to answer that question about the malting, no, we did not do the malting for this in-house. This was a picked up for us, kind of as a one-off experiment when we were going through a stage where we didn't have as much contract distilling at the time, so we just kind of were filling gaps, and this was one of the ideas that someone on the team had, and so we rolled with it. And when we ran this through the distillery, the entire place smelled like a smokehouse. Like someone was cooking brisket in every corner of that building. And one of the big things we didn't know when we did it was how much of this was going to transfer or pull through, from that cooking stage through the fermenting all the way through the distillation. And as you guys can tell, it pulled its way all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other couple of notes here. Leather from Nikki, that's 100% right on. I definitely see that. And like a young Lefroy, Tim, a Scotch guy apparently. So yeah, well, he gave the big thumbs up when you said Northern Illinois. So Tim's from Illinois too. So
Perfect.
as are the Ewelds. So you got some friends here.
In that sample, if you've got some left in the glass, I added 10-20% water to it, kind of to bring it down into that low 80s marker. It really opens up a little bit, gives you a little bit more linger, holds on your tongue a little bit longer when you bring it down there. It gets that spice off the tip of your tongue and kind of brings it all the way in.
Cool. What else are you guys getting on the taste on this one? I mean, you certainly smoke, yeah, definitely. What else? It's chewy, so yeah, the mouthfeel there. What was the proof? What did you say? Like 94? I thought
Mid-90s. Yeah, when
90s.
I shot the sample before we sent it out, it was at 96, so it's probably a little bit lower than that by the time everyone's tasting.
Okay. So Dave and Adina say add a little water, and then they're kind of getting a little bit of an orange taste there. All right, we've got Christy. I think everybody's waiting for Christy to weigh in here. What do you think, Christy?
I'm getting dried apricot off of it.
Okay.
I get something kind of weird off the nose. So I get like a red chili flake, and there's almost like this like hummusy, like mushroomy type smell too.
Yeah, we've got in my notes here, I've got kind of a grainy old wood note. Kind of falls in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this ends up being part of a blend, and that strong smoke, will hold through a 20-to-1 ratio. That's still gets to me that you're still gonna be able to taste that. Do you think? Yeah,
when we did it hasn't been put out to market or anything, but when we did our scaled up tasting through the lab and through the distillers, I think a big part of hitting that number is probably people being used to drinking the Kentucky straight whiskey and being used to that flavor profile, and introducing this being so different.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the preference was put on trying to make it taste more like Kentucky whiskey than necessarily embracing how it comes out of the barrel. And that was really just, one of the experiments that we had pushed through with this, is using it, as standalone, and then seeing where it would be marketable as far as, really tourism and gift shop, without pushing it too far out of the wheelhouse of what people are looking for on the shelf in Kentucky.
Okay. Ed Escott, what do you think? Ed Escott, does a lot of reviews, tasting notes, and those type of things. We got to have Ed weigh in too. Ed, what do you think on this first one, which is again a sample 2? So when I say the first one we're trying.
Well, the funny thing is, actually, after the Cherry Festival Whiskey Fest, I had a little of the New Riff Rye Backsetter, so I had to say it's reminding me a bit of that, because that's a rye with the small amount of the peated backset.
Mm-hmm.
But this has actually I think this actually has a nicer flavor. It has more sweetness to it. I agree with the leather that it has. Definitely the smoke is quite forward. But yeah, I think it's very well balanced the way it is. I would just drink it this way. I honestly wouldn't.
Yeah. Couple more notes that came in. Kevin says licorice on the nose. Yeah. And Tim, Christmas pine, not the one you hang on the rearview mirror, the real one. So not the the carved one. Okay, the real pine. Okay, that's good.
That's distillery deodorant. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what do you guys think is, well, obviously this is very different. This is, if you're used to drinking, just regular old bourbon, this is definitely something that is way off a profile of that. So what do you guys think of this? Seeing some thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah.
It's bold.
It's bold. Yeah.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
How are you planning to blend this in, and what are you planning to blend it into?
What we had looked at was some other 100% ryes that we had to try and keep it at that marker. So we've got some locally grown Ryman rye that we put down. Was rye 90-10 with 10% rye malt as well. But really hadn't forecasted it out much past that. We were trying to get everything into that 4-year marker, and we were really hoping it was going to hold over 100 proof, which we're hoping we might have some barrels that way. Kind of maybe go with a higher proof bottling along those lines. But as far as the final ratio or actually getting it out as far as labeled or branded, we haven't really looked into that yet. It was just a true experiment that we were running with.
So Nikki, not necessarily a fan. It's a lot of smoke, and yeah, I agree with that. Because I'm not a Scotch guy, and this, of course, is not Scotch. I'm not saying it is, but it's going to lend itself to tasting like that type of profile. And this it was definitely a different one for me. And I don't like the smoke and peatiness of Scotch. So that's what usually gets me. So this one's a lot of smoke there for sure. Try it after a longer time in the barrel, or spices like cinnamon and pepper are pronounced. Would work in a quick cocktail. I agree. In a cocktail, you could do some interesting things with a cocktail, especially probably this time of year would be a good one. At the summer barbecue, you could do something that could give you that essence of that smoke, which would be pretty cool in a cocktail, I would think, actually. So that would be good.
I like something with berry, actually, like a blackberry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I like the smokiness. It's almost like a lapsang souchong tea type smokiness. It's got that tannin in it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A Rock-Shung Shong tea was exactly what I was thinking.
What am I going to do with you, Steve?
We got one right here.
I was just some Rock-Shung Shong tea. Well,
I have some.
Where did you come up with this stuff? I've never heard of this.
You've never heard of lapsang souchong tea? It's like a smoky tea.
Is that by Lipton? Oh, that's Lipton. I've heard of that. Yeah.
I like mine sweet.
No, I've never heard of anything like that in my life. And I'm not necessarily disappointed about that. So, yeah. All right. That's the first one. So let's move on to the second one, which again is going to be sample number 1. It's going to be listed again as sample number 1. This is going to be the second one that we try, though.
So this one we affectionately referred to as the smoked goat.
The smoked goat. Okay.
So this kind of parlays. I wanted to do this one after the last one. When we dumped those barrels of the 100% smoked rye, we took some of the Billy Goat strut that we had blended already and rebarreled it, gave it about 6 months in that barrel, try and see what we could get out of it. Again, 100% experimental, not anything that we were looking to rush to market or anything, but figured since we had the barrels and we had the Billy Goat, we would kind of see how that sweetness of the regular Billy Goat worked with that smoked barrel.
All right, I want to put in a quick plug. If you go by the distillery, or if you see it out, pick up a bottle of that Billy Goat Strut, because I tried that. I had no idea. You gave a bottle of that to my buddy Royce Neely. You sent it through me, and I did give it to him, but I was like, let's open that thing up. So we did, and tried. Man, that is fantastic stuff. Really, really different. It's a blend. It's got some Canadian whiskey in there, and we were like, "Is this going to be?" And we were both blown away by that. And then we gave it to Becca, and she finished the bottle. Yeah, of course Becca did. So yeah, it's really, really good stuff. So yeah, check that out. So this is kind of a combo with that, and let's talk a little bit. Yeah, this is number 1. Yep. Mm-hmm. Smells like smoked cherries on the nose. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Is it available in Missouri or Illinois? No, it is
No,
not.
we're Kentucky only currently.
We're going to work on that though. Let's
Yeah.
talk.
Absolutely.
I can help you with that. Caramel and corn puffs on the nose. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a fan of what's happening on the nose on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Jade he's already tasted.
I've had 7 of these.
Julie is agreeing with Christy, so that's good. That's good. There you go, Christy. You got one there agreeing with you. All right, let's give this one a taste and see what we got here. Buttery scones or biscuits? Yeah, definitely buttery on this one. Subtle smoke, lots of honey. Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
agree with that, Ed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little dried fruit, raisin action, maybe apricot.
Yeah.
So ever since the Billy Goat came out recently, since trying it, I've always said it just reminds me of a sweet candy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the Bido honeys, like somebody brought up close to honey earlier. And so I think the smoke on it brings down the sweetness a little bit and adds just a more complex flavor.
Jade, in the notes that you gave me here, you note that this is 93 proof. Is that accurate? Because this has a nice finish to it. It is really a nice, long finish.
As long as everyone did their math right when I pulled the samples, that's what we came up with.
Okay. Okay. The finish on this one is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we sell that in 2 different proofs. At the gift shop, we sell it at the 110 proof in a 375 bottle, and then out for distribution, it's at 90 proof in the 750.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jonathan talks about the progression of it. You get the light smoke up front, and so you get smoky at the beginning, but then by the end, it's kind of a sweet to the point of, he said, almost like simple syrup. So a sugary sweet taste to it. And I like this one as well. Nikki said the last one was questionable. This one she likes, and I'm there with her. I'm a fan of this one.
And I think that's why I wanted to change the order here a little bit to kind of note, that with experiments, you kind of don't know what you're going to get out of it. So using that smoked rye malt, if the best thing we get out of it is the barrels to move them over to the Billy Goat Strut brand, I'd be happy with that as well. So it could be a win there that we didn't even expect, because the Billy Goat Strut wasn't even on paper yet for us when we started that malt project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kevin had a good descriptor here. Bacon, of course, because you're getting that light smoke, and then the crispy waffles and syrup. So, yeah. I agree with everything there, other than crispy waffles versus softer waffles, I guess. To me, they taste kind of the same. I don't know, but okay.
Yeah, you can drink it with breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, this could be a breakfast one for you. I like the idea of bacon and waffles on the front, and this is your breakfast one. So we all need that. Don't act like you don't ever drink in the morning, everybody, because sometimes it happens, especially when you're out with friends. Smothered, covered in chopped and capped, crispy all the way.
The Waffle House whiskey. So we're going
Waffle House whiskey. Yeah. So it could be a potential partnership there.
There we go. I'll give them a call.
Yeah. I like that one. That I'm a fan of what you got going on there. So that's going to be cool. So, do you think that one's going to make it into the lineup then? You think, Jade, based on what you're doing?
I'm actually pushing for that to possibly be like a single barrel release that we do for it.
Okay.
And look at doing something along those lines, and kind of go from there.
That's
again,
what's fun about working at a distillery. Like if Beam could never come up and be like, well, we're just going to do one barrel of that. That wouldn't even, they spill more, than that on a shift. So, but you guys, doing a single barrel of something is something you can do. You can run it through the gift shop, and people can try something unique and just draw to bring people in. It's a neat idea to do that kind of thing. So that's got to be a fun aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah, and we're really looking to get more into that single barrel side of it, especially like you said through the gift shop, and mainly because most of our products for so many years we didn't have aged goods, and now we're finally starting to get 4 to 6 year old product that's ready to go, and to be able to showcase that, we get a lot of tours, so giving them that opportunity to try it there and then go out and buy it when they leave is kind of key for our operation.
So Kevin's asking about the mash bill. Of course, you got a blend here. So I don't know, again, how much you want to share, Jade. Again, we're not asking for anything proprietary, but if you want to share what the mash bills are, the whiskeys that are blended into here, great. If not, we understand.
Yeah, so 60% of it is our rye that we made in-house that came from Waldeck Farm. So that's 100% rye,
Okay.
90-10. And then the other blend, the 40%, is 2 different Canadians, both 6-year-olds. One is a super high corn recipe, and the other is a 3 grain. But as far as actually breaking down that mash bill, that's kind of where we let it stand right now.
Mm-hmm. And again, I just want to ask, how does it even come up, Billy Goatstrut, that you decide to use Canadian whiskey? Because you guys are making a lot of stuff, you're distilling things, you're doing all different kinds of experiments. How do you decide that, hey, we're gonna bring some Canadian whiskey in here and we're gonna experiment with that, and then you end up getting a great blend that tastes really good, and it's an excellent product. So how does that come about even?
So really, it just falls back into the tradition. It falls in Louisville and the docks really before the locks were put into place, and people would unload a lot of their goods when they hit Louisville before they waited for the waters to rise to be able to run the falls. And a lot of times when they did that, they would combine whiskeys that were coming down from other locations. So a lot of things were coming down the Ohio River from up north. Northern territories in Canada at the time really weren't identified like they are today. So you could have something that may have been from the Pennsylvania, New York area, or all the way up into Canada, making its way down through the Louisville. And when those products were blended, sometimes they were done really just to consolidate space. So you could have had 3 or 4 half containers of different products that they put into one container and then push the rest of the way down the river and eliminate the wasted airspace. So when Steve brought the trademark and really looked at bringing this brand back, he really wanted to look into what that area of Louisville was like at the time and what the whiskey really was that was being drunk. And it was a combination of blended spirits from everywhere up the Ohio before they got here. And people weren't really as worried of final flavor or what was going to happen. It just happened to be a byproduct of the time of really just logistics and how it fell into the shipping world.
Okay, yeah, that's very cool. All right, let's move on to our third one, which again is number 3. So we're staying on track for number 3. So experiment number 3. Justine Mays printed these labels off to give this professional look you guys see here.
Very good.
Yes, very, very, very good. That's all the work of Justine there. She's apparently on mute, otherwise she'd be yelling at me, saying, "No, Steve, you did that." So
It's better handwriting than mine. I'll say that much.
there you go.
He's had to read my stuff.
She just said this is not true, and I agree. It's not true. All right, I'm excited about this one. Again, I got the preview with you when we sat down and we were talking about this when I was at the distillery, and I'm really excited to bring this one. So, what's everybody get on the nose on this one? Lemon, honeysuckle. We got a couple lemons now. We got a chocolate. Bill. Okay. Christy sent that to Bill, I bet. I don't know what that is. Preserved lemons, lemon tart. A lot of lemon on this one.
Bill is speaking from a distiller's perspective.
I assure you there's no lemon in there.
No lemon. No.
No bourbon lemonade today.
Okay. That's definitely hitting on a lot of people, though. And I can see that. But you definitely get some, definitely some light baked goods in there.
Yeah, a little light spice, little snap of green.
Mm-hmm. Some raisin on this one. Pear and raisin. Yeah, pear, definitely. That was a good one, Ed. I like that. Vinegar. Schweppes, a bitter lemon soda. Yeah. Heavy corn. Okay, we've got a lot of different things going on. Bread dough, yeah.
I see the big goods.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let's take a taste of this one. We had a lot of different things because let's see what we get on the taste on this one.
The nose is deceiving, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
The nose is deceiving.
Absolutely. Slightly scorched sweet corn. That's cool. I like that. Lots of corn.
Mm-hmm. Is there
Marzipan.
Jade?
We just get what was that last one?
Marzipan, I think.
Marzipan. That's actually Fred Minnick. That's not Dave. He's undercover there. Ginger snap. Again, which is very good. Some caramel. Lots of corn. Very sweet. It is sweet.
I'd consider this a dessert whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. An aperitif.
Sourdough bread.
Yeah, and this one is by far the youngest product that we're tasting through here. This one is barely cracked the 2-year marker, which I think is pretty good for how little green you get in this. I don't get that immediate young age whiskey note or the real grainy flavor to it.
I think you got a surprise for him coming up here though, because no one's really hit on this, right? So don't you feel like, Jade, you got to? So and this one's at 100 proof, so this is the highest proof of any of the three that we're drinking.
Right.
So you want to lay it on them, Jade? What's the secret ingredient in this one that again no one's touched on it yet, but maybe once we talk about it, you can look.
Yeah,
for
so this is a chocolate malted bourbon. It has about 3% chocolate malt in there. So for people that aren't as familiar with that term, it's not actually any chocolate product. It's just a toasted level, almost to a charred level of the malted barley that we use that goes in there. So this has yellow corn, rye, distiller's malt, and chocolate malt in there. And this is roughly about 3% chocolate malt. This has kind of run little ebb and flow over the last 2 years with its reference flavor-wise. Some months we'll try it and we get a lot of that coffee mocha flavor note to it.
Mm-hmm.
Other times we get a real sweet, like that sweet corn, milky note to it. And it kind of goes back and forth every 3 to 6 months. And along with Veach's product, we rotate this in the warehouse every 6 months. And kind of bounce that from about 12 feet in the air to ground level. And we rotate those barrels out on a pretty regular basis.
Right. Tim's asking if this is the same corn like Veach used as well. Is that the case or not?
No, this is yellow corn.
Okay.
So this we got a little bit more of that sweet corn flavor, whereas his is a little mellower but a little heavier. So he gets a little more mouthfeel out of his. And we get a little more of that sweet corn note on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, again, being the 100 proof, if you want to knock it down a little bit, I think it changes the profile a lot. And you got quite a bit of room to play with it there, being up at that 100 proof.
Let's try that out and see what happens.
Changes the nose a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like a honey spiced sweet corn.
Mm-hmm. Couple drops, opens it up. Let's see here on the taste. Yeah, that definitely changes everything about it. It certainly changes the mouthfeel totally. Honeysuckle. Yeah, honeysuckle.
Yeah, I think that ranges that one down into a real comfortable drinker to where you're not, you don't really get a big bite, and it does hang on, but it's not a real burn. You get that almost that honey coating, like a hot toddy type note on
Mm-hmm.
on the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely heavy on the honey though. So I think that's good. So like a honey raisin bread, I think is a good descriptor. So what do you guys think of this one? This one was my favorite of the evening. So get some char taste, lots of sweetness from the corn. Loses tobacco with the water, yeah.
Yeah, it's very different from the other two we've tasted tonight. And that's one thing I like about working in the contract / experimental side of things every now and then is you just get to try such a variety of things. Things that'll never see the light of day, and you can be one of the few that have gotten to try it. Some just crazy things. One thing I thought was kind of interesting is just my thought process to it is what hasn't been done or what can't you do, and then trying to break those barriers.
Mm-hmm. Let's do a little fun thing here. Everybody type in their favorite one, and utilizing the numbers on the bottles just for consistency. Because we went out of order. Let's use the number on the bottles. What is your favorite one? Just type a number in there. Let's kind of get a feel for what everyone's favorite one for the night was. So we got 3, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3. Wife likes 1 for Dave. 1 and 2, 1, 3. See, this is what you gotta love. It's all over the place for sure. Everything's gotten votes. It looks like 3 is getting the most votes, but it looks like someone likes all of them. Neil and Melanie both like number 1. The group with Dave all voted for number 3. Or at least a majority did. I'm not sure what their system is, but their official vote is 3.
Their electoral college vote.
Yes, yeah. Cool. Well, Jade, I appreciate you bringing these. This is fun stuff, and be able to try things before they're available for sale. We love this kind of stuff and some insight into what you're doing. Of course, we'd be remiss if we don't open this up for questions. And this can be about anything, folks, whether you want to ask about what's going on at Kentucky Artisan, the career, the bourbon industry, work with Jefferson's, anything that you'd like to ask. We didn't, one thing we didn't touch on, and I previewed it a little bit as people are thinking of any questions they want to ask you. I've got a question for you. You got a big moment here. You guys just installed a big, a column still, big change here. So tell us about that and how that's going and how that's going to change what you've got going on at Kentucky Artisan.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. So, 5 years ago when, I did one of my reviews, I joked with my boss at the time, and we kind of were laughing a little bit. And he goes, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like, well, I hope to have your job and we'll have a column still. And we laughed about it, and, he thought it was kind of funny. He's like, oh, we'll never have a column still, and I'm not going anywhere. And he doesn't work there anymore, and we just put in our column still. So
he called it.
And he's a great guy. I love Jeremy. We still joke about it a lot, but the column coming in is going to be a huge move for us. Our original goal is to be more efficient, cut down on utilities, really be able to capitalize on the good labor that we have, and cut down our operating hours. We were working 20 hours a day, 360 plus days a year. And we'll still have the ability to do that if we need to, but we'll also be able to cut it back and really capitalize on, the still and the equipment's ability and not depend as much on the labor side of it. So we went with an 18-inch Vendome copper and stainless column. It's about 40 feet tall. We had we call it the doghouse. Now it's on top of the building. So they put some windows and went up about 20 feet from our old ceiling height, so we could accommodate that in there. And try to incorporate some of our older equipment that we already had, as well as use this new equipment and technology that's going to be available to us for the first time.
And obviously, that is very cool. A big move, big change. And how do you learn how to utilize that, Jade? What did you have to go through? Because it's different. It's different than working on a pot still. So, what did you have to do to get up to speed? So, from day one, as that thing fires up, you're ready to go.
Yeah, so I actually started about a year ago when we started talking about it, and enrolled in some training classes with some overseas programs, the International Distilling and Brewing Association, and have been doing some site visits at other distilleries, as well as reaching out to people that we've done other projects with. We bottled and did some work for Jim Rutledge for his Cream of Kentucky brand. So I reached out to him and asked him for some tips from his Four Roses days and things that he had in mind. And kind
He
of
knows a
really,
little bit, so yeah, that's not a bad person to ask.
you got a couple of people that come through, and Steve Thompson's got a wealth of knowledge, and friends from the industry have been in there for almost 50 years. So, he's probably still got his Rolodex, but his list of phone numbers on his cell phone is just amazing of who he can reach out to and kind of get into. I reached out to Ryan Lang at Middle West, the guys up at Hard Truth in Nashville, Indiana, and just a lot of local people. The crew at Jeff Creed is giving me a hand. So there's been people really from all over the place that have been really willing to help. And then Rob and the whole team at Vendome have been great. And I have no idea how to do it yet. I hope when we set it up, I'm going to give it hell and do like we've done with everything else. And even if we struggle through it, we'll figure it out and get back up and running real soon.
Yeah.
Cool. And you are keeping a pot still there, I guess. Is it just something that you're always going to use, or is it going to be like if a customer wants something coming off a pot still? Or tell us about what the plan for that is.
Yeah, so we anticipate probably 90+% of our production coming through the column. A lot of our clients that we've had in the past, if they have left, they've gone to column distillate plants. We're still keeping our 2,000-gallon pot as well as our 125-gallon pot pilot still. Just give us a little different ability if we need it. Whiskey Row will probably stay pot still distillation for the time being. That's just kind of Steve Thompson's image for that brand, and he'd kind of like to keep it that way for the time being. It's not to say that we won't make some on the pot still and some on the column and end up blending them down the road. But initially, he'd like to put down some more barrels on the pot stills before we retire him.
Mm-hmm. If no one wants that old faux pot still that you guys got, I'll take that.
It actually shipped out.
Please, that thing's got to be worth 10 times what my house is. So, yeah, I could see there's high demand for that thing.
There's a twin sister of it that's operating out in Hawaii right now, and
really,
there was talks that it might make its way out there, but when we shipped it out, it went back to one of the owner's storage facilities, so it's hanging out for the time being. So if you actually do know somebody that wants to buy a couple $100,000 piece of copper, please reach out to us.
Okay, yeah. I would
It's fun to move.
trade my house for that. So yeah, that's cool though. That thing is history. So amazing piece that you've got there. Very cool. So again, I want to open this up. Anybody have any questions for Jade or Ethan, and I want to talk a little bit? Feel free to take yourself off mute and ask away.
Jade, quick question. My wife normally doesn't like rye, and the first and second one she actually really, really liked. How do you make it so smooth? Because I know normally you have to pay a premium for a good bottle that's actually about that smooth.
Yeah, for the second one, the smoked one, that's the heirloom rye that we grew as a rye and rye, and it really doesn't have the same flavor profile of most other ryes, and that's just kind of the terroir, or like dropping into the wine industry side of it. They picked that grain out because it did taste a little different. It does have a different finish, and then that smokiness kind of helps change that flavor profile. For the number one, the rye, again, is that rye and rye, but one of the blenders is a higher corn product, so that's going to knock that down a little bit as well. So something, people don't normally talk about is that rye whiskeys can have corn in them. So they can be 51% rye and still have corn. So if you find a rye that you like, it may have, 20, 30% corn in there also. So you really just got to try them, and, you can find one. And a lot of times, like I said, they don't market that side of it. They'll just call it a rye whiskey, but it could have those grains in there as well.
Yeah, I'll chip in here a little bit too, because I'm not generally a huge fan of ryes. But as soon as I tasted that Billy Goat Strut, I just fell in love with it. I bought my own bottles, even though I'd had access to it before. It's just a delicious product. It's got such good sweetness to it. That's what I love about it the most. And everybody that I share it with,
Really good.
yeah, everyone that I share it with agrees that they're surprised that it's right, and it's not too expensive, really. It's just hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you.
Very cool. You converted someone over. Not a rye fan, now likes it. So there you go.
The Billy Goat is technically, as far as the TTB is concerned, is the North American whiskey, where you get a little bit of leeway as far as ingredients. And since it's a blend, we felt that was the best representation of what it actually is. So it's why it's not, pushed into one category more than the other.
Yeah. All right. What else do you guys want to know? Rare opportunity. Talk with someone like Jade.
May I ask something about Jefferson's? So Jefferson's is always sort of an enigma to me as a brand. So I know you guys are the home of Jefferson's, and I was there, and I know prior to that it was sourced, obviously, and then it will be what you're distilling now, or maybe some of it already is. But then they also now distill a bunch at Bardstown, right? So how does that brand work? I mean, I guess when it's distilled in the different places, is that going to wind up going into different product, or is it all going to be mixed, or where's the main production still going to happen? Are you going to do that part of it and the aging part of it and all that?
Yeah, so we house roughly 26,000 barrels, and there's a significant portion of those that are Jefferson's as well. And Jefferson's as a brand is with Trey's ability to really go through and flavor profile and match and pull these barrels has always been about blending based on taste and not necessarily based on any set other criteria. So it's never been X number of barrels from this place and X from this one. If he goes out and he tastes through the barrels and he likes, this XYZ of these and over here a couple of those, then that's really how he pulls those profiles together. The mash bill that we make at Kentucky Artisan is specific to us, and I can't necessarily speak to the mash bills that other distilleries make for them. But I know that ours, we run a specific high rye bourbon recipe. Some of ours is also a rye whiskey that we make for them. We've had some of ours be blended into the chef's collaborations. There's a few other products out there.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
So a few of the other products that'll come out will hopefully be, estate style products that's all from the farm that we partnered with. So they have a lot of control over that. But really, like I said, it really comes down to being able to try them on a per barrel basis or per lot basis that Trey will do. And I anticipate us, hopefully over time doing a larger percentage of them, us being the home and them being partial owners, that makes some sense. But they've always been based on multiple distilleries, making multiple recipes for him. So he has that ability to use those as building blocks for his bourbon.
Okay, I guess that helps, because I realized but apparently that's intentional, that they pull from all different places, and that's just what it's built on. Yeah, well, it works.
We're in the industry, people talk about flavor drift. If they switch from one source to another and product changes. One of the benefits of having a product that's a combination of 6 through 18-year-old bourbon for the reserve lines and the Jeffersons is that it gives you some leeway, with mixing and matching those barrels to keep that profile the same. He looks to keep the base as close to his 0 point as he can, and then if he tastes it and he needs something sweet, he's got a library of barrels that he's probably got marked as honey notes, and another one that's marked as tobacco notes, and you can go back through and pull those barrels in order to adjust that profile of the base.
Yeah. What's kind of true about that, Jade, is he's doing the same thing now versus what he was doing when he was 100% sourcing everything from other distilleries. Now, he's got some kind of making it in-house, if you will. And again, they're not distillers, they're sourcing, but they have partnerships with specific that are making things for them. But he's blending these things together, just like he's always done. He's always bought from multiple distilleries and sourced these things and then blended them together and created these things. And sounds like he's still going to do that, even though he has these partnerships here.
Yeah, and I think that's just a shout out to all the other distilleries and all the people that are doing a good job. I mean, some of these places are built on industry titans that have 40, 50 years worth of knowledge, and they're really good at what they do, and they've done it on massive scales. And I don't, we never take it as a knock that we're not able to do that. We know our role, and we're growing and learning, and hopefully one day that we fall into that category also. So it's kind of a prideful moment to be included with them. It's not something that we shy away from or take any shade at, that we're, one of something. We feel important and very happy to be part of it.
Yeah. All right. What else would you guys like to ask?
One of the things we thought was pretty unique when we visited Kentucky Artisan was the malt house there. Do you guys still use that? Are you still doing the malting? And, as American single malts get more popular, are you looking at doing more of your own malting there for that?
Yeah, so the malt house is still there. We use it seasonally. It's kind of hard to keep it rolling in the middle of summer just because temperature-wise. And even though it's cool, it's still a kind of a fight. Anytime we get a new distiller in, we kind of use it as an opportunity to put them through the ringer and make them malt some bourbons. It almost never works their first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it takes a little while to get used to it. We've put some in some of the whiskey row batches that we've done that have been our malt. It's a very tedious, it's not really efficient for us on the scale that we do. We probably have to malt for about 3 weeks to be able to cook for about 2 days. So we really got to stack it up and work on it that way. But learning the skill set behind it, really the attention to detail and the process, helped us learn some other things as far as sourcing our grain and talking to people about what we're looking for, the advantages of some stages of the malt. So it really helped on the learning side, almost more than the actual physical malting side. And we've been able to implement a lot of things because of that.
It just floored me when we visited. Holy cow, they've got a malt house here.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a fun process, to be part of it. When you nail it, it's awesome. You're really excited. But we found, we don't always nail it. So there's a lot of times where we're sitting there going, man, this isn't going to work. And when it goes great, it's good. 4 or 5 days, we're good to go. But when it goes bad, then we're cleaning and sanitizing and sterilizing everything, because if you let the grain sit too long and you get a mold or anything that grows on it, everything's got to get ripped apart. Yep. So it's really, really good when it's good, and it's really, really bad. And Ethan can attest, he does not like climbing and taking it all apart and have to sanitize it and clean it all out.
Yeah, got
the drying racks and the malt are very difficult.
Yeah.
To clean up.
Anything else anybody like to know?
Ask us anything.
Anything. So there you go. Now you can really ask anything.
Where in Illinois are you from?
We're about 40 miles west of Chicago in the DeKalb, Rockford area.
We're in Rockford.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
half of my family's from DeKalb.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Northern Illinois. I actually went to high school in Hampshire.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, Hampshire 20 years ago is different than Hampshire now. So
absolutely.
Graduating class of under 100 people, and I think now they're like 1,600 for their classes. So it was a small farm town at the time. You can still drive your tractor to school.
Very cool.
There were Jay, there were some posts on social media not too long ago of barrels with your name on it at KAD. Are those the things that we're tasting tonight? Are there other things that you're working on? And can you kind of tell us what you have planned along those lines?
Yeah, so I kind of made the decision that if I was going to be working in the industry and I saw myself sticking around for 20, 30 years to go, that I didn't want to wait 20 or 30 years to decide to start putting down some whiskey. So I kind of just bit the bullet, bought what I could and put stuff down. And you can see in the pictures, they're combinations of different companies' barrels. So, I talked to everybody that was willing to listen and be like, hey, man, will you give me a discount to try your barrel? And, I'm going to use it for myself. It's not for, like a resale value thing. And some people were really good. There's some Zach barrels, some ISC barrels, and some Calvin barrels in my group of 12. And I put down 2 different recipes. One's a high rye bourbon, and the other one's a chocolate malted bourbon, a lot less chocolate malt. It's about 1% that went in there. It's really, really faint, just kind of a background flavor profile in there. Now I didn't want it to be the main characteristic of it. And then I'm looking to put down some just straight rye whiskey this fall. I guess it's fall now, but here shortly, once we get back up and running. Originally, we didn't know the column was going to be a full go until about March. So, production planning and everything changed. So I'm just hoping I can get some more down before the end of the year.
Cool.
So you say you're gonna be releasing out in other states, starting with California and a couple others. Can you kind of give us a sneak peek on the other states, or is that still not?
Yeah, I know it's probably not going to be anything that's touching Kentucky for the time being. And California is just kind of near and dear to Steve's heart. He spent a lot of time out there. He grew up out there, and he's got a lot of friends and family. So I think a lot of that is just local connections that he's got in the area for his Whiskey Row brand. And that's really the only one that I've heard of. I know he's been optimistic that as it's picked up steam, if he could jump into 2 or 3 states, that would be ideal. And that was kind of a goal over the next 2 years. But as far as being set in stone, I don't have any details.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything else?
Just about the stills. I remember when I was there that was before the column still, obviously. But don't you have like 6 or 7 stills in that room, like of all different sizes and all? So, and I do remember they'll put one out in the other room that was no longer being used. But so none of those are going to be used except for maybe for doing a little of the Whiskey Row. I mean, because you've got like every single capacity there.
Yeah, we removed, we actually converted one of the stills into a thumper for the column. So that one will actually be used every day. It just won't be in its pot still capacity any longer. Then we kept the 2,000 gallon still and the 125 gallon pilot still. And then up in the tour center, we still have the early times original, the old bean or the egg. Looks like a big copper egg that's up there. And that one will stay for now in the tour center. I don't really know that's final destination or where that one will end up, but it was a great showpiece. We ran that one. I think the last time we ran it was July of about 2018. So we put down some barrels. Actually, we gave a lot of the distillers that were working in the back at the time, 2 or 3 days to kind of come up with their own recipes, and we gave it a little farewell tour, and everybody got a chance to run it, say goodbye, and then we moved that up to the tour center, took it out of service.
That's cool. Yeah, because I just remember how it was cool seeing all those different stills around. I guess the next time I go, I'm just going to see the column and the 2 others.
Yeah, it's if it was confusing and interesting before, you're really in for something when you come back.
Oh, yeah.
It'll probably take us, a few months to figure out where all the new water lines and steam lines and everything go. So I'm excited. I've sat back there pretty much every day with the construction crews and tried to get my hands in it so I know where everything was run and going to. So it wasn't just a shock moment when I walk back and someone's like, well, here's your new car and it's a Tesla, and you're like, where do I change the oil?
Yeah.
So we got to figure it out, and I think it'll be great moving forward. So yeah, absolutely come back out and check out the new stills. It'll be real nice here shortly.
Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. We're going to let this crew go, and great job today from Jade and Ethan. Appreciate it, guys. Good stuff.
We appreciate it. Thank you guys all for buying tickets and showing your support for us, and come back in a few months and check us out once we got the new column rolling.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Get out there and say hello, because you're around there, Jade, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So take a tour, say hello to Jade. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Have a good night, all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.